You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
I think I always knew where I was going, even if I didn't exactly know what that meant. I had this idea that I was going to, like I said, I knew I wasn't going to work in an office. I knew I was going to do something creative. And I think when you just have that like almost blind faith in your life and that things are going to work out, you manifest that.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Was It Chance, the podcast about embracing opportunity and taking intentional risk for your creative life. I'm Heather Vickery.
And I'm Alan Seals. Heather and I started off as two perfect strangers who met by chance and embraced opportunity. A little voice crack there. Listen in as we... don't worry, I'm totally going to mature one of these days. You're right. Listen in as we chat with other successful people about the risks they've taken to put themselves on a path to creative success.
What? What did you just say?
Success. That's from Beetlejuice. You know, Delia like, sucks, yes.
Part of what I love about our interviews is finding out exactly how Alan is going to introduce himself each episode, because it's always entertaining.
I don't plan it out. Getting over a little bit of snotty from our children.
Children and winter, yeah.
Yeah, children and winter. So I guess we'll introduce the guest, yeah?
Yes, Alan. Can you please introduce today's guest?
Our guest is, speaking of children in winter, I met our guest, Nicole Carosella, because her son is in class with my little boy, Jackson, and we just became like insta-besties bonding over theater and... Oh, she's so nervous right now.
No,
Look at her
I was
face.
thinking,
Yeah.
you know what I was thinking about? Is that we actually kind of bonded over weird quotes, and you dropped one at the beginning of this.
Oh, sucks, yes? Yeah. All right.
And I was like, this is someone I can talk to. He's a little weird and outgoing. This will work.
Yeah, we met at a birthday party where the kids were all making ice cream, homemade ice cream. So,
On a bike.
On a bike. Yeah, they were churning ice cream on a bike.
Oh, that's so cool. Turning ice cream on a bike.
Because Brooklyn, yeah. Okay, Nicole is one half of a sister duo. Wasn't that a Nickelodeon show, Sister? Sister duo that co-founded...
Wait. You didn't watch Sister?
No? If it was like Robot, I would have watched it. Or like Engineer, Computer Programmer.
Do you not know who Jackie Harry is?
I didn't watch Sister. I don't know, like if it was like Robot, I would watch. Or like Engineer.
You need to go as soon as we're finished and Google Jackie Harry and redeem yourself.
I will, but let's spend the whole hour getting through the bio. Okay, sister duo that co-founded a high-end jewelry brand called Sorellina. And Nicole with her sister Kim grew up on the North Shore of Long Island, New York, where they were raised with a deep appreciation for the arts and shared a love of design. After graduating with a fine arts degree from USC, Nicole studied jewelry design at Fashion Institute of Technology, FIT, here in New York City. Kim, her sissy, then attended Tulane University for art history and then relocated to Florence, Italy. That's not in America for those who are geographically challenged. And continued her studies. And then Kim came back to New York and they decided to set course on their future business, which I can't wait to get into because why do you just decide to do this? I don't know. Business starters are crazy. Hello, raising my hand.
Yes,
As an homage to their heritage, Kim and Nicole chose to name the collection Sorellina, the Italian word for little sister. So, hey, Nicole, we're finally done with the bio. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are your nerves a little bit better now?
Yeah,
this is your first podcast, you were saying.
It is my first podcast, but laughing at you makes it easier.
Laughing at me. Yes, thank you.
Yes, that's very specific word choice there. Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, Heather does that all the time. So I have you on the wrong screen, Heather. I keep having to look back here and then because Nicole's actually in the room with me, listeners. This is exciting.
So cool.
Oh, wait, you're in the same place?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yep.
You're in the same room? I had no idea.
Yeah, I don't just have one of these gigantic mics in my home.
Oh, you didn't see, before we started recording, my hands over there setting up her microphone and everything?
I did not recognize your magic hands.
Oh, no, those were
just thought
these
it was
mitts.
Those
somebody
magic hands,
helping her
Yeah.
set up podcast equipment because it was her first interview. I didn't know you were in the same space.
You couldn't just recognize them.
Can't recognize magic hands. So, Sorellina, talking about the jewelry, like we've been out to a couple shows together, and I've gotten a moderate history, and I actually been careful not to ask too many questions because I wanted to save it for today, knowing that today was coming.
Oh, so you didn't want to give me any practice. That's nice.
No,
Again,
well,
super considerate.
I like to go on the fly. But okay, so I know that you and Kim, your sister, have started this business. How old is it now?
We have in our 10th year.
Nice.
Yeah.
10th year. And like starting, I know about starting tech because
I know nothing about starting tech.
because I can literally sit right here and do it all. But for you to actually go out and like you're traveling to other countries and sourcing jewels and precious metals and all these other things, I know nothing about this. So when you first decided, okay, so you were designing, and then Kim came back from Italy and was like, Sorellina, and you were like, brilliant.
Yeah.
What was that moment? Because when you were like, let's do this on our own, or are we going to try to work for others, or like, how did that whole thing catalyze?
Well, first of all, we didn't know what we were doing when we started Sorellina. We had no idea. We were the right combination, I think, of like, naive is a nicer word than stupid. But, we were naive and we had nothing to lose. And so I came home one day and I remember exactly where we were. We were in my parents' kitchen because magic always happens in the kitchen, right? And I showed Kim a necklace that I made. And she was like, I think we should start a business. And she just said it with so much confidence that I was like, cool. That sounds like a great idea. You're really smart. Like, I'll follow you anywhere.
So she should either be a co-founder of a business or a cult leader.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I would follow Kim. Yes. So I went to FIT to be a costume designer and was very set on this path. I had a plan and I was sewing and I hated sewing. And so I took a jewelry class, and it turns out that I love fire way more than sewing machines. And as soon as I lit a torch, I was like, this feels right. It combined like sculpture and gold and diamonds and just all these things that I loved. So I would make all these projects and I would bring them home. And she was really the one to say, I don't see anything like this out there. This has more of like an artist perspective, but it's not crafty. I think we could do it.
Well, what was her perspective on it? Because you're making the physical goods, and she's bringing the business prowess.
Oh yeah, no, It's her mind. Like she's got a brilliant, beautiful, wonderful mind that is organized, and she has great vision. And she taught me probably the most important lesson I have ever learned, which is not to make decisions based on fear. And Kim's always someone that made choices that seemed right to her and never let fear hold her back. And I think it was her determination and the way she approached this whole idea of having a business that just, it enrolled me right in. Like I didn't have any fear because she was by my side. Even though we probably should have because we knew nothing. Like, I want to make that very clear.
Okay, did you two decide to really just start your business because it was something you researched ahead of time, or did you sort of jump in? Like, what led to this collaboration?
Oh my God, we say that all the time. Like, thank God we didn't know more. Because then you would overthink it and probably say there's a smarter way to make money than in an oversaturated industry with very high price points, but we didn't. And I'm so glad that we didn't.
Okay, so your sister said don't make decisions out of fear. That's my whole jam. I love that. But I am curious. It is interesting. First of all, just having this skill set is not, I am very creative, but I'm not that kind of creative. So how you look at a bunch of raw materials and do you see a finished product, or do you just play and get a finished product? What's that?
I very clearly see finished products before I start anything. And I usually sketch before I find stones. But sometimes I do source a stone and it's just so beautiful. And then I design a piece around it. But most of the time I just have like a very clear vision and I'm like, oh, I need to make this. And then I draw it and then I show it to my sister and we have a conversation that usually I win.
So you've told me, I think this is when we were having sushi, that you sketch, right? You do
all the time.
Like even when you were a kid, you were sketching.
Yes, I was always someone that was sketching, and weirdly enough, I also was always making things out of like either clay, or I would take candles, like when the wax, and as it was cooling, I would form them into little creatures and make these little sculptures. And now wax carving is such a big part of what I do for our company still. And who knew that was a job when I was like 8 years old?
You did, obviously, even though you didn't know it.
Even though I didn't
You were
know.
like, and this is it.
Yeah.
I used to play with clay. We would make our own homemade Play-Doh.
Yep.
And like there's some recipe where you boil some things and then all of a sudden like you have Play-Doh, and I make stop motion videos.
Really?
Out of that. Yeah, because we
That's
just
cool. My
we
kids
just
do
got.
that.
You remember the cameras that like the shoulder VHS
Oh, yeah.
camcorders? We got one of those, and the two features that I used just because they were there were the overdubbing, so you could add audio on top of existing video, and stop motion. And it was the worst technology inside this consumer version. But I've got these videos somewhere of like a dinosaur rolling down a hill and getting squished by a rock or something. I don't know. It's still
my God, I love it. I
It's
wanna
still
see
out there
them.
somewhere. Yeah. If I find them, I'll send them your way. But
funny.
you were sketching though, and then I know at some point you were considering theater, performing.
I wanted to do costume design. I loved working in movies. I love stories. And that's how we connected when I told you, like, I love the theater. I love reading. I love good television. I love a poem. I mean, anything that you can share a story with me, I eat it up. So I really wanted to be in movies and do all the fashion. But then when I realized what it took to do that, I didn't like it so much.
But it's easier to start your own jewelry business
There's no
than it is.
logic
Okay,
to my thinking here. I was
I
like
you're
22.
like so far ahead, though, Alan.
Well,
You're so
no,
far
I-
ahead of Nicole's journey. Like, what I'm sensing is that you are just an artist. Like, creativity flows through you in so many different ways. You have so many creative outlets and so many creative passions. And then that business-minded sister of yours was like, I can do something with that.
Yes, Kim always says that if I wanted to be a furniture designer, Sorellina would be a furniture company. And if I wanted to be a clothing designer, we would have clothes. Like, it didn't matter. For her, it was the joy of having a business and building a team and creating a space that people could work but have like great lives. And I think that's something we really try to do at Sorellina, is have like this wonderful team of creative people that work together, and we all really love each other in our jobs.
So do you do any mass production, or is everything individually?
No, we
handcrafted?
do a lot of mass production.
So I just don't know anything. I'm so fascinated about all of this. So you have, okay, you're sitting at home and you're bored one night and had a glass of wine or something, and you're like, I'm just gonna chink, chink, clank, 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 bang, 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 and then like, you know, you got your torch.
I wish you could see his hands right now. This is an amazing interpretation of like, it's like watching a mime try to like.
You should videotape Alan doing that
I seriously
next to
think that should
you
be in
actually
there.
making high-end
Bang, bang, bang.
jewelry.
I'm just
His
figuring.
poor jewelry that he's making is taking such a beating.
I'm just thinking of like a blacksmith in my mind. I'm like
clang, clang, yeah.
Because when you said fire, right? I'm like, you know, you're
It's like a little
Because you have to bend the metal.
smelting the metal, and it's coming out red hot, and then you got to blow the glass.
Listen, I've done some welding, and there are some big fires and like some crazy tools, and that's always really funny when I do that, because people don't expect me to be able to like wield a torch that's that big or like hammer that hard, but I might
Like
be
the-
5 feet tall, but I got like some
It's like
aggression to get
Flashdance.
out. Like, yeah.
Flash dance.
I mean, come on. I am a lesbian. That scene with Jennifer Beals is classic.
I am not a lesbian, and that is an amazing scene, okay? Like, I think if you
Yeah,
breathe, that's an amazing scene.
All right, so Nicole, I am curious because this show is all about embracing opportunity, taking intentional risk, manifesting your creative success. If you look back, I mean, you were creating art from candles when you were a child. Like, when do you know that you took an intentional risk that then has led you down this path? Like, can you pinpoint one?
You know, What I can tell you is I know the exact moment I knew my life wouldn't be normal. When my father, we had a bring your daughter to work day. And I was in 6th grade and I went to his office and he had a company and he had this like big cool office that I'm sure seemed very like impressive. And I remember walking through and I'd looked at everyone's desks and I saw them sitting there and I was like, this is never going to be my life. This is not how I'm going to understand I'm going to figure out something that's much more creative. And I didn't know what that was, but I did know that I was going to do something more artistic and that was probably going to be very different than anything my parents had like prepared me for.
Well, I want to back up then to what you were saying about wanting to be a costume designer for the movies and then at 22 decided to go into jewelry. But where were you looking or what were you trying to do that you couldn't figure out for the costume side of things that made the switch just flip?
You know, there was no joy. Like I was good at it, but for me, I am, and you know this about me, like I love to laugh. I am a joyful person. And if I don't feel joy when I'm doing something, I don't really want to do it, especially not for a living. And so I would sit there and I would sew and the pieces would come out nice, but there was no like, I don't know, there wasn't something more to it. It just felt like I was doing a task and then it was completed. And I think we might have talked about this, but my mother, she had told me when I was a kid, you should be a jewelry designer. So it just automatically went into this place of like, that's something I'm never going to be. Because I was like a rebellious kid. And I was sitting there sewing one day and I was like, this is boring. And then I had this free period and there just happened to be an intro to jewelry class. And I was like, well, I do like jewelry. Maybe I'll just make it for me. And I sat down and I was like, damn it, Mama's right. Always.
It's the worst.
Like, oh, it's so bad.
Fucking mother is right.
Yeah. I'm like, she does know me.
But then you're going down this path of making the jewelry, and I don't know. I still want to back up to like 22 when you and Kim said that. Okay.
Well, yeah, probably 22 when I started making the shift, 24 when I was really enrolled in the classes and bringing home the projects. And
well, when did it become a thing that you knew was going to be real? And then was it an effort to double down on that, or did it just sort of happen?
Like up until a few years ago, I didn't even think it was real and it was my life. I mean, it all kind of seemed like a dream. I think when Kim and I had the conversation of the name and she said Sorellina, and I see the logo as an S. And we were sitting next to each other, and I just drew on a piece of paper this like weird S. And we both looked at each other and we were like, that's it. I think then, at that moment, it was like, oh, we've trademarked a name. We have a logo. Like, this is going to be something. And when we had a little residency at Bergdorf's, and I remember seeing the jewelry in the cases there. And
just a little residency at Bergdorf's.
Just a little, nothing big.
Just a little thing.
And I looked at Kim and I was like, this is going to work. Like, we're going to do this. This is going to be our life.
Have you talked to her about that? Of like, was there ever a what if moment when she wanted to run or you wanted to run, but you stuck around?
Like, luckily they were never at the same time. There were some moments where we thought that it was too hard, or where we'd worked with people that weren't like the nicest, especially in the beginning. We were two small girls that, I'm 5 feet tall, so if you don't really look at the wrinkles in my face, you might think I'm much younger than I am. And so there was a lot of people that spoke down to us or weren't very kind to us in the beginning, especially like in the jewelry world. A lot of the manufacturers are like very old school men. So there were some defeating days. There were days where just, we would get pieces back from working with the jewelers and they would look nothing like what we wanted. And it's a lot of money. And so there was those moments where we're like, should we just call it quits? And we would set these goals for ourselves. And we'd say, okay, let's give it another 6 months. If in 6 months we don't see things turning around or we haven't found the right partners, maybe we'll switch to something else. And every time right before you'd get to that 6 months, something great would happen and you'd take another jump. And then when we released our like biggest collection, that really, it changed our business. And Kim, I remember telling her, I want to make tarot cards that are made out of gold and diamonds and sapphires.
What?
And they're going
How
to
do
be
I get
big.
those?
Oh, that's like our big thing. They're tarot cards. And she said to me, this sounds expensive. Nobody's doing anything like this. Are you sure? And I really thought about it, and every part of my body said this is the right thing to do. It's beautiful, and I felt that people needed to connect to those images, and that it was something that added another level to our jewelry that made it even more special and more meaningful. And she said to me, you know, this can make or break Sorellina. Do you want to move forward? And I said, I do. And I was very comfortable with that, because if it failed, I knew that I would be okay with that I took that risk. But if we didn't, I'd always regret it. And luckily, it was the thing that changed our business and worked out.
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned for more of the episode. And now we're back.
Jewelry tarot cards.
Yeah, they're pretty cool, I have to say.
I feel like you just Googled it.
I didn't. I need to, because I'm trying to stay present in this interview. But if I do that and I go down the rabbit hole, it'll have to be later. I mean, I looked at your website, but I somehow did not see. Are they usable?
Well, actually, I mean, they're not usable in the sense that you would like
Can't
flip
shuffle
them
them.
and you can't shuffle
But
them.
yeah, because they're
But
jewelry.
when they're all out, so we've made 7 tarot cards so far. And when they're out, it's very interesting to see people pick their favorite, and everyone's always drawn to one. And when I tell them the meaning of the card, there's usually like oh my goodness, no way, that's exactly what I'm going through, or I can't believe you said that type moment. And it's a really cool thing, because these symbols have been around for thousands of years, and they really do connect with people. And there's an amazing energy that comes from jewelry. I mean, I am the biggest believer that jewelry is proof that magic exists in the world. So I really see it with the tarot cards and how people connect to it.
Wait, go down that rabbit hole.
Oh, I can definitely go down that rabbit hole.
Go down that rabbit hole, because that concept to me sounds very cool. And my tech scientific brain is trying to put the thoughts into their proper places.
I love watching your brain try to figure something out. It's like the first time I told you a story about my mom, your face, I mean, it was like the most magnificent thing I'd ever seen. I think that this world is full of beautiful things that don't always come. You know, when you see like a gemstone, they don't look like a diamond doesn't come out polished and cut. You know, they are these rocks, and when they're open, there's such beauty inside. And I think it's a great metaphor for life, that like things don't always look as beautiful as they are, but once they're refined and once you work on it, you can create real magic. And when you see the colors that exist in these stones, I mean, we walk on this, we live above it. So yeah, it's magic.
So taking that back to the tarot cards then, so what you said, you have how many designs? 6?
We've designed 7.
7. And what are like love and happiness, and I'm not very familiar with tarot cards, so I'm just stabbing in the dark here. What are the cards that you have?
So we have the Sun card, which is all about joy and creation. We have the Moon card, which is all about like female intuition. It's a very romantic card, but like, you know, things look different at night than they do in the day, so trust your intuition. Love that card. We have the Wheel card, which is, I mean, I love them all, so it's really hard, but the Wheel card is all about the Wheel of Fortune, being grateful, and if you stay in this great place of gratitude, you can continue to have good fortune, but like don't take it for granted, because it could all go away. We have the Lovers card, which is all about balance and beauty and love. We have the Empress card, and she's like the mother of all and creativity, so I'm also very drawn to that card. And then we have the Star card, which I always say is the perfect card for anybody that's experienced COVID. It's all about how there's a new beginning after a hard time, and so if you can get through the dark times, there is light ahead. And then Strength card, which is all about that true strength comes from compassion and love and not brute force.
How did you pick those? Because I love tarot cards. I pull tarot cards. In fact, well, they're not tarot cards, but my friend and I created manifestation cards based off of tarot cards, which I love. and there are so many good ones. You picked the moon is of the ones you mentioned. The moon is my favorite, but
I can feel
randomly,
the moon for you. I think I would pick that.
Yeah.
For you, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good to know.
Yeah, I think you'd like
randomly,
it.
my favorite card, and people get really weirded out by this, is the Hanging Man.
Well, my favorite card is one of is
And
the death
death.
card.
Yes,
I love the death card.
You
know,
got to do death next. Come on.
I really do want to do death. It sounds such an interesting thing to say while laughing. But
No, but it's all about rebirth.
It's not, yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean that someone's, going to fall ill. It means that something in your life, probably that cycle needs to end now. And I think that's such an important thing to understand, that sometimes things have run their course and then something new comes from that.
So how did you pick the ones that you did? What's that process?
Well, so this all came after I had a tarot reading in 2018, and when I had a tarot reading. And the first card I drew, and I had gone through a very, traumatic experience, and I had drawn the Strength card. And there was something about, I don't know if it was the beautiful woman and the way her hair was, I just connected to the card so strongly. And so that's what really started my journey into learning about tarot and trying to translate these images into wearable art. So obviously we had to do the Strength card. Like that was like, it started it all, so that was one. And then the Sun card, I mean, we were creating something new, so it felt like the right thing to do, and we wanted to bring joy to people. And my mom always used to tell me this story about the sun and the wind, so like had to have that. The Moon card, also, my mother really is making a lot of appearances in this.
I know,
today.
right?
She's influenced your life a
She
lot.
really has. I just loved the meaning of the Moon card, and when I was little, my mom told me this story that I embarrassingly believed for way too long, that when I was born at night, she held me by the window and a moon perfectly reflected on my forehead. And I believed that I was born with this reflection of the moon up until I was telling someone that story in high school and realized that moons do not reflect perfectly on your forehead. And was like, oh my God, I sound so dumb right now.
No, but the moonlight, I believe your mom.
Yeah.
I don't care. Your friend is dumb.
But you'll see there's a lot of moons in our collection because of that. So I really picked ones that I felt like resonated with me, that would resonate with a lot of people and bring people joy and, beauty.
Do you make your collections, your designs for you, or do you make them for others?
I make them for others.
So do you start designing and you're sketching based on what you think?
Well, actually, there's a pair of earrings that I specifically made because one day I was wearing a headband and I was like, I need a certain type of earring with this, and then I made it. But most of the time, I really do try to think of what would bring people joy.
Well, what I was going to ask, what was if not if you make them for you or others. Obviously, you make them for others because you're selling them. But I guess designing wise, and we talked individually about like our versions of spirituality and the energy that we feel interconnects us with each other and the universe and all of this. So, and it's interesting to me what you said a little while ago about you feel like, what did you say? The jewelry, there's magic in jewelry. Yeah.
I'm going to talk about the magic.
Right. So there's the magic in the jewelry, but so when you're designing then, are you I feel like there's a little bit, like I'm imagining literally Merlin from A Sword in the Stone. Like Merlin's just like, blah, 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 and earrings, boom, but it's got an enchantment. So when you wear the earrings, it does this thing to you and allows you, it gives you the strength or gives you the love or gives you the whatever. Like,
well, I absolutely believe that happens, and I do bless all of our jewelry too.
I love that though.
Well, there is energy in that, and I want people to connect with the pieces, whether it's just because it makes them feel pretty, or if it's like something that someone got for a special occasion. Jewelry has this beautiful way of tying you to people, to memory, to moments, and you get to hold it. So it's a talisman that really, it has such power. I mean, as I said that, I'm holding jewelry.
How did you fall into the celebrity aspect of things?
Because we should
fortunate.
mention that you're beautiful. I did look it up because, whatever. Curiosity killed the cat. You're beautiful, and it is beautiful. Tarot jewelry sells from anywhere from $4,000 to $20,000. This is not, the average American person is not wearing one of these pieces of jewelry. Which is totally fine. There has to be something for everyone.
I mean, there are studs, so like people can access them. We do try because I want people to be able to access tarot. But when you are making a stone painting that takes over 100 hours to make, it's not inexpensive.
No, and they're real. I mean, they're substantial, and there's real stones. All of that. So you have to have fallen into a really unique crowd that everyone's going to love it, but they can afford it, that is willing to invest in it. So I want to hear.
Well, it's the reason I brought that up is because are we allowed to say the person for the party that you were?
You could say that.
Yeah. So you're working with Brooklyn Decker, and right after we had met the first time, like that next week, I think you were planning, like you were just going to go hang out with Brooklyn so that she could wear all your stuff and do. So, I mean, it sounds like a personal relationship, but how? I mean, that may be the answer, but like, how did this stuff sort of fall?
I did
fall into
not
place?
Have any like personal connection to people prior to this. We were very fortunate that slowly people started. I think you have some really cool celebs that want to feel different, and they are risk takers and they're bold and they're confident. And we always say that people who wear our jewelry tend to be very confident people. A lot of, women buy it for themselves. So you have that with celebrities, right? And we're lucky that they have found us and have supported us. And it's crazy because sometimes, I remember like the first time we got a DM from a celebrity and we were like, I'm sorry.
Oh, they reached out?
Yeah, we're like, do you see who just DM'd us? Like, that's really crazy. But we've been very fortunate.
Wow. Yeah. So that was still just like slipping into the DMs.
Yeah,
celebrity.
I know. Then I learned that whole thing and I was like, now I can say that, like, I mean, we've had some good people. We have Cynthia Erivo, who is just a style icon.
Oh my gosh.
She can do no
She's
wrong.
Amazing.
Everything she does is amazing. She's always been a great supporter. Blake Lively, Juliana
Huff,
how much I love Jules.
So fun.
My goal now is to get your jewelry on the red carpet of the Tony Awards.
I know that's your goal.
That's what I'm going to go for.
If anyone can do it, it's Alan.
I know.
And there are bukus of red carpets happening between now and the end of the year.
I know. I'm like, maybe I can come up for, Alan and I are talking about doing a couple of events for opening shows. I'm like, maybe I can borrow a piece.
You can absolutely borrow a piece. I'm going to put you in a Luna tarot card.
Yes, please.
I think that would look great on you.
I want.
You.
Oh God!
I would wear the hell out of it and be very tender with it.
Very tender.
And Alan, I'm just seeing like big flower diamonds, just like everywhere.
We just need lots of
sparkle. Maybe a tiara.
Magic hands.
Yeah,
I can do. I'll do tiara. I'll wear. I will wear anything. You
it could be our new cover art. Our new cover art could be a picture of me in the Luna necklace and Alan in a tiara.
I love that.
Toby Marlowe, one of the co-creators of Six, the musical, wears tons and tons of jewelry, and I think Toby would look amazing in some of your collections. So I'm putting that out there in the universe. So Toby,
put it out there.
Yeah.
I really believe if you put it out there, you can manifest it.
You and Oprah.
You know it. Do you know I met Oprah when I was younger, and this is a great, quick little story. I went to a party and Oprah was there and she didn't want to talk to any of the adults. And I was in 4th grade and she spent the whole night talking to me. And we talked and I told her that when I got older, I wanted to have a talk show. And she told me not to do it.
Don't do it.
But she was so kind. I think like I look back on certain moments in my life of when I got like a little bit of confidence. And I'm always really grateful that I had that moment with her where she was like, chose me over everyone else to speak to. And it made me feel really good. So thanks, Oprah.
Aww.
Yeah.
I think that you should find a way to reach her people and share that story. I don't know if you remember me, Oprah, but when I was in 4th grade, we had this conversation. And now I have this jewelry line out. Would you like a piece?
Would you like something? It would look great on you.
Mm-hmm. It would look so beautiful on you.
Kelly Clarkson on her morning show. Yeah, Kelly.
That's right.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, I was literally going to ask you because I can feel this magic connection with you. The way, I love that you said that you feel like jewelry is proof of magic. I do want to fully ask about that, but I was going to ask you about manifestation, and then you just said manifestation. So what is your relationship with manifestation? So the premise of this show, I always say manifestation isn't just wanting a thing and then it becomes reality. It's declaring something and then changing the way we show up in the world.
Absolutely.
So that we create it into being. And I'd love to sort of hear what your manifestation process is like.
Well, when I look back, I think I was always kind of manifesting things in my life because without knowing it, I think I always knew where I was going, even if I didn't exactly know what that meant. I had this idea that I was going to, like I said, I knew I wasn't going to work in an office. I knew I was going to do something creative. And I think when you just have that like almost blind faith in your life and that things are going to work out, you manifest that. Now, that's not to say that I've had an easy life by any means.
Sure. No.
There's been tons of challenges. Yeah. And we spoke about this, that the more you go through in life, you can go through hard times and they can really break you down, or you can get through them and find great strength in yourself. And if you do that, you can just kind of keep making the world better and showing up better. And I think for me, it's always just having a really like positive attitude that I can get through anything because I've gotten through so much. Yeah. And I believe in like the law of resonance, that like you just have to stay in a certain mentality and then those things will come to you. I like to think I manifested Alan. Well, at least meeting you, right?
Ta-da!
Like, right? But I mean, manifesting relationships and connections, like, I think that's all about how you approach life.
There's a certain level of openness. I agree with that. There's a level of openness and receptiveness that I think when you're looking for something, whether consciously or not, the people who are better at it and more practiced are the ones who are able to consciously do it. But I think there's sayings all the time, like misery loves company. There's confirmation bias, if you want to go for the scientific term around all this stuff. You're looking for the things that are going to fall into line with you. So if you're consciously looking forward positively, up, onwards and upwards, then you're going to align yourself with additional people who are also on that same path, with the same drive, with the same everything. That's how, like, Heather and I, that's how you and I met. We're just like, hey, you want to be a best friend? Sure, let's be best friends. All right, we're best friends.
That was it. Yeah.
that was pretty much it. All right, one more quick break. Hang on a second. All right, here's the rest of the episode. And you talked me out of seeing Batman, I think, is the movie I was going to see by myself.
You tell that is not, I did not talk you out of it.
You did.
I need to understand that because I love Batman.
Exactly. He was good. We were at a podcasting conference. So you go there to meet the people, right? To make connections, to engage. So we're sitting at a table chatting and having a nice time. And most of us don't know each other. And we're like, oh, let's go to dinner. And Alan's like, I guess I could go to dinner. I bought a movie ticket. Like, dude was going to go to a movie by himself.
There's nothing, I didn't know what I was.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. But I didn't go, oh, come on, man, don't go to the movie.
She did.
Go to dinner.
Totally
I
did.
was just like, oh. And he was like, I don't have to go to the movie.
But you know what I love is that you changed your plan for something better. Sometimes people are like, but I bought it, I'm just going to go. And it's like, no, something better came along. Like, yeah, you bought it. Okay, move on to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line, though? Okay, so this is one of my pet peeves of, I'll call her an acquaintance of, when we would say, hey, what are you doing? She'd reach out, what are you doing later? Oh, I'm doing so-and-so, do you want to come? And she's like, oh, I'll let you know. And so she'd go through this habit of reaching out to all her friends and trying to figure out what all of them were doing.
That is not the universe like opening up a path to a beautiful friendship.
Right. Well,
that's being flaky and trying to figure out who's got the best thing to offer me.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the micro example.
Yeah.
That's the micro example on a macro level, right? So at what point, again, this goes back to manifestation and creating the destiny that you want, is at what point are you just making a decision and going with it versus waiting for the opportunities to present themselves?
That's a really good question.
Okay, but yes, and...
That's also my favorite phrase. I just want you to know, yes, and is like one of my favorite things.
Of course. I love it. And what Nicole said, which is you made a plan. You didn't have plans. You didn't know anybody. You thought you were going to be on your own. You bought a movie ticket. and then something different came along and you said better. I think we were better, but
definitely better.
Whatever. But then you thought, well, let me just lean into this opportunity. Even if all it had been was dinner with some fellow podcasters where you got a few laughs and got to harass the server, which he did.
That does not sound right. You gave her shit with me.
We just had bad food. That's a different story.
That was different.
It wasn't her fault. She was a nice server.
Right.
But, so you did make a plan, and then you were like, well, I'm going to change that plan. And this is something that I work with my daughters on and all of my clients. I am a transformational success coach, right? We have to do things with intention and flexibility. We have to be able to say, this was the plan, but now I know something else.
Right.
So I'm going to do something different and trust ourselves and trust that intuition. It worked out for us because I literally looked across the table that night at dinner and I said, we're going to be best friends now, aren't we? And you were like, absolutely. And it legit just never ended. We were like, that was it.
And I think the difference is what you were talking about is you can't just wait for life to show up and be like, I'm waiting for a sign, like aimlessly. There's no power in that. There's no being centered and like making choices in that. You're just like looking to the outside to empower you. Whereas I think you have to like listen to your inside and listen to yourself and be centered enough to make actual decisions that take you on a path. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I want to know when that has shown up for you, Nicole, what you just said, which is we make plans, right? We want to be engaged in our life. We don't want to just sit around. So in your creative life or in your very successful business, when did you go down one path and then get some different information and veer a different direction?
Oh. I mean, there's definitely collections that I had started on. And actually, there was one collection that I was really excited about. And I had worked hard on it. And I really thought it was something special. And then right before, we had even had a few samples come in. And then a designer came out with something so similar.
Oh, man.
And it could have, I had, two choices. I could either release it and just say, this sometimes happens, right? Sometimes we get similar influences and ideas and these two things look the same, or I could scrap it, which is also heartbreaking when you work on something for so long and then you're like, oh, well, now it's all over. And we ended up, I was upset, and we got this information that someone else did something, and we pivoted, and we ended up making one of my favorite collections, which is called Nomad, which is all about different. I'm actually wearing a pendant, and it's got all these different shaped stones that shouldn't go together, but we make them go together. And so we basically just pivoted and created something new that ended up being one of our biggest collections.
Wow.
Because all timing is divine, right?
Yeah.
How long does it take to make a single piece versus a collection?
Well, that really depends on the type of piece, but our production time does take 6 to 8 weeks to make something, but to design a collection, it takes years. I mean, I've been working on our 10-year collection for almost a year now, and it will be released in June.
Really? So
because it is a massive collection. There's 30-something pieces in it. Some are very big. And there's a lot of technical things that need to be figured out. There's stone sourcing that needs to be figured out. There's weight, things people don't think of this, but earrings, you don't want them to be too heavy. So you might design a great earring, get in the sample and be like, well, I could wear this for about half a second. That's not really going to, and then you have to rework it and change. And I do think that being adaptable is one of the, I'm don't make decisions from fear and be super adaptable in life. If you can do those things, you're in a pretty good spot.
That's so cool. The whole sketch to mass production just baffles me with all of this stuff. Going back to blacksmithing.
You're doing the hammering thing again. Yeah.
Are you making the very first sample, or do you send off the sketch?
Most of the time I send the sketch and I work with them to develop the sample. For some pieces, I do occasionally carve them, or I'll carve a one-of-a-kind piece, or I'll carve like the shape of how I want it to be and then say this is where I'd like the diamonds. So there's all different ways. It depends on the piece and how complicated it is.
What about the tactile part of that? Do you ever make things that probably aren't going to be sold through your business because you want to actually be playing with that fire, right? Actively hands-on activating that energy?
Or like I make things that like I know that are for me. Like I have my own little secret stash.
I love that. I have a past client who is an energy healer, which is, I think, very cool. She recently started making bread, and she said as soon as she put her hands in the bread, she could literally feel the energy shift, and she realized it was the yeast, because yeast is alive, and so is fire. And so that's what made me think of that. Like, I would imagine to sort of get that spark on occasion, or to reconnect, or to center yourself, or I don't want to put words in your mouth. I have no idea why, but that at some point you would want to be physically touching those things.
Oh, I love working with my hands. I love the process of it and bringing something. I always say there's like a lot of crazy up in my brain, and I love it. And it's really nice to watch it come out into and form something tangible because I can't show you the crazy in my brain. I mean, you can kind of get it from talking to me, but when I show you something I make, it gives you a way into it.
Can we talk about jewelry being magic?
And yes, always. It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Well, expand on that then, because for someone like me, the tech, the science, how would you explain to me a story or something that has happened that's been able to say, yeah, this is why I believe that this piece carries this weight, or this piece can influence this decision, or anything along those lines that's going to allow any of us struggling creative types to more understand the messaging behind the jewelry?
Well, I think the first thing I would do is show you a beautiful opal. And if you can look at the colors and that fire and that sparkle and that magic, and you see what an outside of an opal looks like, I'm sorry, you crack that open, that's magic.
Absolutely.
It's so beautiful. And then I would talk to you more about the magic of how something can connect you. If you're not going to get behind that, like, okay, they're rocks, like I don't really get the magic in them, fine. I mean, I'm going to think you're a little cuckoo, but that's okay. But the power of having something, like you wear a wedding band, why? It connects you to a person. It reminds you that, like, it's a cycle. There's going to be good times. There's going to be bad times. I am sure that there are times where you've played with that band, maybe subconsciously, when you're feeling nervous or excited about something. We go to jewelry. We go to these things to touch them, to hold them, to connect us to why we bought them, to a commitment we made, to a moment that was so perfect in our lives. You know, I have my Nana's wedding band, and she passed a long time ago, but I think of her every single day and how proud she would be of what Kim and I built because I have her ring on my finger. And I play with it when I get nervous. And I remember that she was a woman that she couldn't follow her artistic path in life. You know, she was an Italian immigrant that had, 3 kids and a husband starting a business in a garage, and her job was to, make the red sauce, and that was it. And she wanted to be in fashion. And I know that I make her proud every day. And if I didn't have that ring, would I remember that? I'm connected to her. That's magic.
What about color?
I love it.
What about
I love color. What do you want to talk about? I have a pink apartment. Tell me everything. Like, what do you mean? Bring on color.
Well, just the color of when you're designing. Are there... well, they say like red...
Different colors carry different energies.
Right. Different colors carry different energies and influence different magic. And like you paint different rooms for different reasons because like you want a calming effect, or you, like a lot of dining rooms are red because red is associated with hunger and or eating or something. I don't know. There's all these things, right? So like when you
He's
use
making that all up.
No! Google it. Ruby versus emerald versus diamond versus sapphire, topaz.
Look at you with all these gem names and a dance. There's a dance that goes with it.
And, well, yeah, geology. Like, you want to talk about the power. Like, I feel when you were talking about rocks and opals and all this stuff, just, side note, the power and the energy that goes into like all the pressure that goes into this little tiny speck of an existence that makes this beautiful thing. Like that's how I can relate. But going back to the color part of all of this, do you see the color in the piece that you were building before it's built, or like do you have specific stones in mind?
Usually when I make something, I do it in a few colorways for that exact reason. Colors can be neutrals, right? An emerald is a neutral. You can wear it with almost anything. And so many times people are afraid of color because they're like, oh, I'm going to stick with gold and diamonds, which like, hey, I love. But they're scared. They're like, it's not going to match as many things. And I'm like, no, bring in color. Because again, I do also think that color is powerful too, right? It's a different energy. It makes you see things differently. You see something in a blue light versus a green light versus a red light. It looks different. So when I design something, usually I think of like 2 to 3 colorways that I think the piece would really sing in. And the color, and I also want people to connect with it. And some people are going to go for like black and emeralds, and they're going to want the dark and the green and the moody. And some people are going to want something softer like white mother of pearl and pink sapphires. And I love seeing a piece too, how different it looks in 2 different colorways.
Have you ever talked to a geologist about any of this?
Yes.
About
I've
what
talked
makes
to
these so special?
Different geologists. I mean, I took some courses at GIA to like study. I love learning about stones, about the different properties and hardness levels and like what it takes to create them, how they grow, how they reflect light, why some of them, have like different hardness, like emeralds, for example. I don't really recommend them for engagement rings if they're a big one because they're softer. They should be more protected. So when you work with it, you have to think about the stone too and like, what does the stone need? Like this one might need a little bit more love. It needs a little bit more of a border. Whereas like something that's harder, you can be like, okay, you're better for a ring or a bracelet that gets, hit a bunch. Because you don't realize how much people knock into things until you repair jewelry.
I'm just curious how this relates and if you use this separately or not. Okay. I love crystals. I love the energy of crystals. I have them all over my house. I'm often holding them when I'm coaching or speaking. I keep them in my pockets. Different than gemstones per se, but also I use them to do vibrational energy work, like color-wise. And I'm just curious if you play with crystals or what your relationship is.
Not only do I play with crystals, my son has a sick crystal collection, and we talk about it. He actually has a piece of fluorite that we stand in front of and say like something we're grateful for in the morning, just as a way to like center ourselves. And I always go back to the magic, and I'm like, proof that magic exists. You can make magic in your day. What do you want to happen today? Like set your intention and then go live your life, kid.
Where can we find you online, connect with the business, all of the fun stuff?
Well, we have our website, Sorellina, New York, but then you can find us at Saks. We have a lot of great Net-a-Porter, Moda, some really awesome independent stores all around the country. Like Twist is one of my favorites, and Tiny Gods, and got some new stores in San Francisco that I'm dying to get out to because I love it out there.
Very cool.
Your stuff is beautiful.
It
you are
is.
beautiful. I love your energy.
Thank you. Yours too.
The witchy side of me, which let's be honest is most of me, just loved every part of that.
What? Explain yourself.
The witches, we're the ones that didn't get caught.
You mean talking about all of the energy and jewelry and the tarot cards?
The magic, the tarot cards, the crystals that she puts, like she manifests energy into every jewelry piece before it gets shipped or sold or delivered. I mean, I am here for all of that witchy goodness.
I really like that, and I didn't know that about her, and it makes me wonder what other jewelry sporting lines. I wonder, if Michael Jordan, if he's like blessing his Air Jordans every time a new batch hits the shelves.
I'm gonna go with no. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's a no for me, dog.
Also, I know those Jordans sell for a lot, but few of them are going for $20,000.
Listen, price what you're worth. Charge what you're worth. Right?
I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it. I think that the time and the effort And the product, like what she's putting into it, is super, super valuable. And I love it. She's so passionate about it.
She is passionate about it. And this is one of those things that to me on the outside seems so technical. And I kept on asking this because I wanted to know. I love how stuff works, but we never really got to the answer of mechanically how the mass production and everything works. But then talking about it now, it doesn't ultimately matter to our conversation because we're not here to talk about setting up an assembly line. We're talking about how she created her success through embracing potential failure. And like one of the things that she said at the beginning that her sister Kim said to her too was like, don't make decisions based on fear. And I just saw your eyes light up at that one.
Talk to me about making brave choices, and I loved it. I don't have siblings. Well, that's complicated. I have half siblings and step siblings and ex-step siblings, but I don't have anybody that's like my person like that, right? But I have daughters, and that's what I want for them in a sibling relationship is to sort of be each other's person like that. And I loved that Nicole just gets to be her kind of wacky, creative self who can dream these amazing, magical things. And her sister says, okay, if you believe in it, I'll figure out how to make the business do that. And they feed off of each other. And look what they've done.
Right. And now I want some tarot card jewelry. Like it just
Alan,
sounds so unique.
I'm your podcast wife. You can gift me some of her. Noted. Christmas is coming up, or Hanukkah, or whatever floats your fancy. Just because you love me.
Oh, true, very true.
Alan and I, for those of you listening, Alan and I, right before we started recording, spent a few minutes telling each other how pretty we both were and how much we really liked each other. So
positive affirmations. I love me and you, and we're both pretty.
Yeah, we're both so pretty.
I absolutely love how she incorporates all of that, her version of spirituality, all of her emotion, channeling it into this jewelry, into this expression. And it gives her so much creative success and creative fulfillment that it's very enviable that she's like, I just want to do it because it's fun. Like she didn't do sewing. She didn't become a costume designer because she's like, okay, I'm good at it, but it doesn't bring her joy. Yeah.
I loved that because I am here for that, for my life, for my clients' lives, for my friends' life, for your life, Alan, for everyone listening. Fucking do the things that bring you joy. And if they don't, just fuck them. I mean, listen, sometimes we have to do work that we don't totally love, but you've got to balance it with things that bring you joy. And that was what she was looking to do for work. So.
Well, let's put it out there that you and Marie Kondo need to do a Bring Joy, Spark Joy tour.
And I want to do a tour with Marie Kondo. I want to do a tour with Nicole, wear all her pretty jewelry.
You just want the jewelry.
I don't care about Marie Kondo.
But she can spark joy. She can spark joy. You can spark joy, and then you can wear things that spark joy.
Sparkle.
Sparks and sparkles everywhere.
I love it. Nicole is cool. She is cool people, and her product is really special and unique and beautiful. But mostly, it's just wonderful to see women out there collaborating and following their dreams and bringing that out to the world at large. So it was a lot of fun. We really do want to hear how you're out taking intentional risk. What kind of joy are you seeking? What's showing up in your life? You can do that in 2 easy ways. You can email us at wasitchancepodcast@gmail.com or send us a DM on Instagram. We are wasitchance on Instagram, and we would love to hear from you.
Yes.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. Bring us home. Let's see. You've been listening to Was It Chance, the podcast about embracing opportunity and taking intentional risks for your creative life. I'm Alan Seal.
And I'm Heather Vickery. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.